All right, two more hands here. Hand number one. This is a 10 NL table. It's full ring. I get ace queen in the hijack, and I open raise to three big blinds. That's pretty standard raise. You've got a good hand. Um, if we look at players behind us, uh, we don't really have a whole lot of worry about getting three bet. We've got two. This would be more of a tight aggressive. This is tight, more on the passive side, and this player is more of a loose, somewhat aggressive. But they're three bet stats. That's 3%. 1 out of 31. This is 5 out of 95. This is 10. It's here 8 out of 79. I've got over 200 hands with these two guys, 58 for this guy. Big blind, we don't know anything about them. So I'll know even if I get three bet, I'm going to call with ace queen suited. It's just too strong a hand. And maybe depending on who it is, maybe even four bet. So if it's a guy that's super loose, super aggressive, yeah, probably just four bet that opponent. But I get called from the big blind or the button only, and we go to the flop. So let's go through the button. We know a 16% 9 pre-flop raise. If we look at the button, his button stats, you can see that he's really tight early position. He's only played 2 out of 51 hands. And then he plays about 19% from mid position cutoff button with about pre-flop raise same across the board. Tends to raise a little bit more if he's on the cutoff or button. His call 2-bet stat is 2 out of 20 on the button. I think that's a little bit less informative as to what kinds of hands he's playing. So let's set up a range where we're going to assume he will 3-bet with queens plus ace king. He'll likely call with his suited aces, his pocket pairs. That's 14%. That's probably about right. Because he could have 3-bet. I think we need a few more hands. Maybe those offsuit hands. We don't know. I don't have notes on him, so what kind of hands he'll call or he'll raise. We'll add those two. That's probably 18%. That's probably close. So go with there an ace queen of spades. We are at 61% versus that range. This just has a lot of these lower offsuit cards. Now, if we catch an ace, we should be pretty happy because I don't think he's going to have ace king in his range. If we catch a queen, I think we're going to be pretty happy having top kicker. So the board flops 7-7-4 with spade draw, and we have that spade draw. Now, what's notable is that we have the ace of spades, which means he won't have any of these spade draws here, any of the ace-x suited hands. We also have queen, so king queen's not in his range, queen jack's not in his range, queen 10. These are all of spades are not in his range. So we've really cut down on what his flush draws might be. And when you look at his total range, flush draws only constitute 4.69%. It's pretty small. So our question is, what do we do? Well, I think on this dry board, I think we're going to bet. If we pick up the pot now, that's good. We're not letting, let's say, king jack or 9-10 get there. So I went ahead and c-bet. I c-bet 5.4, which is what, 3/4 pot. Um, I think that's okay. I'd say maybe two thirds to three quarters. We do want to make it expensive for him to call with overcards. Um, he calls, so what could he have? So I think he's got, looking at his fold to C bet is 13%. So 1 out of 8. And then fold to turn C bet is 2 out of 4. Based on that, he's probably going to call with all of his pairs. He's probably calling flush draw, open ended straight draw, gut shots, probably the 2 card backdoor flush draws, but we're still only at 52%. I think he's probably calling with some overcards. And the question is, what overcards is he calling? He could be calling with all overcards, or he could be calling with just, his ace high hands. I think I'd probably lean more towards his ace high hands than just straight up 2 overcards. I think with the 2 overcards, they're going to have some sort of backdoor potential. So maybe the clubs is what he calls. Maybe. So I think we'll leave it right there, and you can see that we're still at 64%. Turn was a 4 of diamonds. And right now, I don't think I'm scared of this. Yeah, he could have, another pair, could have a higher pocket pair, could have a 7 or a 4, but, we've have, 2 7s accounted for, 2 4s accounted for. So what do we do? Do we check? Do we bet? I think we should have bet again. I didn't, I checked. And the reason I think we should bet again is we have to continue telling our story that we have an overpair. Because I think if we bet, we're going to get all of these pocket pair below top pairs to call. And I think we're going to probably get we may get an overpair. Overpairs, it's kind of interesting. Maybe they won't, but maybe they won't fold. A lot of people won't fold those overpairs. If we get them to fold, that's fantastic. I think flush draws are going to call. I think open-ended straight draws probably going to call to see what we do. Maybe even the gut shots. But, we've got all of those ace-high hands that we can get out. So, we can get their equity. We don't want a 9 to fall and have ace-9 beat us. The no-made hands, the jack-10, queen-10, we I think we want a lot of those hands just to kind of go away so that we can just take down the pot. I mean, the pot's at 18.3 big blinds right now. So, I think that's kind of what we should be doing. We checked, and he bet 17.4, so he bet almost pot. And that's kind of an interesting bet, because I kind of think that he's going to make a bet that size with overpairs. I'm not sure he would do that with full house. He obviously could. So, maybe he's going to do it with a full house because he's afraid of, me having, let's say, queens and a queen coming on the turn. I don't think he may do it now with pocket pair, so fives and sixes, because at that point now it's not just sevens and fours. He's got sevens and sixes and sevens or sevens and fives, which is a better 2 pair than what I would have, which is sevens and fours with the ace kicker. So he could be betting that much. I mean, we showed weakness by checking, kind of indicating that we don't have anything. Now it's on us. Oh, and I think he might do it with his flush draw. I think it's going to be less likely that it's going to be these draws now, because I think they would have just checked behind. They're going to be scared of an overpaired. That they want to draw. They want to see what they hit. So at 34%, he's going to bet, and at this point, I'm only at 24.6% equity. I'm getting 33% for the pot. So, with this bet, I kind of think we're going to have to hit. We're going to have to hit the ace or the spade. Pot's giving us 33, so we need, We need that 33% equity. We don't have that. We're only getting 24.6. So I really have to fold here. And that's kind of why I think it might be a little bit better to lead out, to bet again. We bet 3/4. We can bet, half to two. We can probably bet half pot, maybe 2/3 pot. Save ourselves a little bit. If he folds, great. If he calls, then we can basically, see what happens on the river. I called, which I think was incorrect, and then the ace of clubs hit on the river. Now at that time, I'm thinking, okay, that's good. So I now beat any of his overpairs. So 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks. That's great. I hit. I could bet, but I think if I bet and get raised, I'm going to have to fold. Whereas I may be able to, he may just check it down. Let us get the showdown. Also, with what he bet, he could have that overpair and he might not be scared of it. He may fire out a bet again. So when we look at his range is heavy in the full houses. He's got pocket pairs below, top pair 51%, weak pair 25%. I think if I bet, he's only going to call these full houses. I think he's going to get rid of all of these lower pocket pairs. So I don't think really a bet's going to work. Again, check seems weak, but I think that's probably what we need to do. So I did check, and now he bet 50, so almost pot again. So that's now 2 bets now that where he bet pot, and a player could be bluffing, but I just don't. I don't think so. I think he has 7 or a 4. I think he has 7 or 4, or quads maybe. Pocket 4s, pocket 7s. I mean, he has those. Yeah, he's got the quads in there. Yeah, he's still there. I don't know what happened to his quads. He's got pocket 4s. He's got pocket 7s in there. Two combos out of 120. He should be in there. I don't. Let's take that out. So we were there. I'm trying to figure out. I mean, because he could have pocket 7s, he could have pocket 4s, and that's kind of what it's starting to look like. So he'd call with all of those. Right, 3 combos of 4s, one combo of 7s. Yeah. It's still in there. Okay, so then 4 of diamonds hits. Yeah. So we've got that 4% range. So he could still have quads. And then ace of clubs hits. Yeah, 4%. Yep, there it is. So, yeah, I think with this size, I think we fold. Again, we probably should have folded on the turn and saved us some money. But I think he's got full house or quads. You don't bet 2 almost pot size bets with nothing, unless the player's crazy. And with 16-9, I don't think he's crazy. So I called, I think incorrectly. He shows 4-5 suited. I do have that in the range. It's a small number of combos, but I think that's right. So he hit trips, and he's worried that he bet pot, you know, on I think the pot bet on the turn was probably a little too much for him. Uh, he could bet half pot. I mean, if the spade gets there, you know, most people are gonna pay you off. I think he was panicked, and then pot size bet on the river. I think looks okay. He already called. You know, he already bet at pot size on the turn once. In his mind, he's thinking, well, let's see if he calls again. Maybe I have, you know, aces or kings. So, all right. So that's hand number one. We had it in his range. We made some mistakes there. So let me clear things out and get hand number two. All right, hand number two. This is a 25 NL game. I am in the hijack. So we get first two early position players limp. I raised the 5, which has been kind of standard. If we think these players are going to limp call a lot, then we can increase our size. So this person, you know, limp calls 2 out of 2 times. I only have 53 hands out of him. This guy calls 3 out of 4. So with a hand like this, hand that we want to play that's somewhat strong, what we could do is instead of raising 5, we could raise to, let's say, 7 or 8 big blinds. You know, so do maybe 5 big blinds plus 1 for each limper, or maybe even 6 big blinds plus 1 for each limper, just to increase the size, because we know they're going to call, or they have a high likelihood to call with worse hands. But right now, I like the 5 big blinds against this player. Behind, we've got so far what's setting up to be a tight player. Right behind us, we have a loose passive player on the button, more of a loose, somewhat loose aggressive in small blind, and in the big blind we've got a loose passive. So while I'd love to pick up the pot right now, I think I'll probably get one caller and I'll be in position, which is good. We actually have 2 callers, so we have the button, who calls at 47%, and then we have Villain 17, who is under the gun and limp called from under the gun. So let's start with this player. This player's 30% VPIP with the 10% pre-flop raise. His raise is, he definitely seems loose, but I'll note 42% seems high compared to MP and cutoff. It could be that he was just getting cards in early position. We don't have a huge number of hands on him. His pre-flop raise is about 17%, so I would expect him to raise. A lot of time he's going to play, but he just limped called, so I think he's going to be a little bit looser. Little bit looser in his range. So let's set up. We'll set 22%. We're gonna have to increase what our raise sizes is. So maybe he might raise these big cards. Maybe even ace king. We won't. We'll leave those, and then I think so we're at 21%. I think we may need to have a few more cards in here. So what was his limping range? So I think his limping range was probably 21.4%. And then when we raise, normally it's going to contract, but with the caller, he may just go ahead and only get rid of some hands like that. Get rid of hands like those. So keep some of the broadways, keep all his suited connectors, suited one gapper, suited aces, and so forth. So maybe down to 16.9. Villain 21 has played 47%. He's called 2 bets 29% of the time. So that's 4 out of 14. He hasn't called any from the button, so he's fixing to be loose. And he could easily be maybe 26%. We're gonna have, he doesn't raise, so we're gonna have to adjust. Let's keep our raising range just like right at that. I think maybe queens will just check something very wide. So against both of these ranges, so against the early position raise, we're going to be 48, 49%. Against this range, same thing, about 49%. It's not that great. We'll hope for a good flop, basically, and hopefully have better post flop play. So flop comes down 9, 7, 3, 9 of hearts, 7 of diamonds, 3 of clubs, and villain 17 checks. Pretty standard to check, entire range to pre-flop raiser. Even if they hit, you will see that he hits, a pair 37% of the time. He could have a gut shot, draw, but mostly this range is going to hit, is going to miss. I think he's going to have a lot of folds. I do have fold to C bet 0 out of 3, but through 3 hands. I think overall this hand is going to miss, and versus 3 players, I think if I bet, I'm going to probably pick it up a nice chunk of the time. This player folds a 3 bet 67%. Just like the previous one, this board isn't likely to hit hard. So if we look at just, pair plus, he's more likely to have a pair. So 47.1%. He's got more likely to have the 9s. He's got a lot of 9s in his hand. So he can hit that. He's also could have some draws, some gut shots. I mean, gut shots might be the most likely cards. You have to consider gut shots on a board like this. Now we don't know how they play. With a few number of hands, they may always call with gut shots, or they could just say, heck with it. I will note that 29 hands at this table, I'm playing 31-14. So to them, I may be loose. So I might get a few more calls. So I bet 8.68, which is, half pot. Button folds. So missed him. But this under the gun player calls. So I think he's going to call probably any pair. He's going to call his open-ended straight draw, his gut shots. I don't know if he'll call his two card backdoor flush draws. I think gut shot, overcards, any pair, plus, I think that's probably okay. Maybe the aces, if he doesn't believe that I have an ace. He could be looking to take it away from me, because right now I've c-bet flop 2 out of 2, I've c-bet turn 1 out of 1. Maybe he has ace high, maybe he doesn't. We'll leave it in there. So against that calling range, we're at 29.8%, not the greatest. And I'm not worried. I'm betting, hoping to win the pot now. But if called, I have the ace overcards. I have a backdoor diamond draw. And I kind of have a backdoor straight. You can't really count it because I need 4-5 to come. And then if you get a 4-5, anyone with a 6 is going to have the straight. All right, so we go see the turn. 6 of diamonds hit. That actually improves our hands. Gives us closer to the draw. Villain 17 checks, which I'd kind of expect him to do. And now we've got our decision. So we had kind of planned on... I had planned on double barreling if the diamond comes. Diamond does come, so I think I probably could double barrel. But I think this diamond was a bad diamond to hit. Because what we're looking for with the barreling card is a card that allows us to barrel with the chance to pick up the pot. Yeah, I think if I bet again, we're going to get some folds. Um, I think we might, generate, the unpaired cards folding. But if he didn't believe us, if he didn't believe that we had a nine, he's not going to believe that that six hit us. So the weak pairs, maybe not even all the weak pairs, we can get rid of, so get rid of the sixes, uh, fives, fours, pairs, threes, pair deuce. We can get rid of those and say that if I bet, he's probably going to call with all of those. Yeah, he'll probably call with flush draw, probably call with the open and straight draw. I don't think he calls with the gut shot anymore. So, if we bet and he calls, we're only at 24.6%. And I think he's going to be calling, almost 60% of the time, 58, 59%. So, um, we could bet it and show some profit, expecting him to fold. Uh, and remember, we included some ace high hands in there, but I think probably the better play would have been to check behind to take the showdown, because this 379 hits the caller's range harder than it hits my range. And I think we hit the diamond. Let's wait for the diamond. If the diamond comes, he actually may lead into us at that time, and we get another street of value. I didn't do that. I bet 17, so I bet half pot, and villain 17 calls. So I think he's calling with all of these again, and you can see we're not in good shape. And then the 10 hearts comes, uh, which misses our diamond draw. Um, villain 17 checks, which I think is going to be no big surprise. I think if he bets, we have to give him credit for trying to get value from his hand that he doesn't want it to check through. So maybe he's got an 8, that hit the straight, and he's going to bet to try to hopefully get one call out. But he doesn't, so probably doesn't have the straight. But he still has a bunch of cards that's going to beat us. We have ace high, so he checks. It's to us. Should we bet? Probably not. Again, I don't think the 10 changes anything. If this was a queen or a king or an ace, I think we can justify betting, because because we can say, hey, that card just hit us, just gave us top pair, and now we can probably get him to fold his top pair, middle pair, weak pair hands. But that 10, I don't think is really going to help our range. If anything, if he had 10, he could have a 9-10 and just hit two pair now, so he's definitely going to call. All right, so I just checked behind, got a showdown, and he shows 3. So he shows trips, which we have in his range. Played it. That's definitely something that he had, and I think that's even more reason why we should have just checked behind with that diamond draw. I don't think he's going to fold a whole lot, and all of the cards that he does call, he's going to beat. If we hit the diamond, he's going to likely pay us off one more street. Whereas, because he's got trips, or because he doesn't think we'll have the diamond. But if we bet, the turn in the river, and the diamond hits the river, he's probably not going to call that river bet again. He'll probably say, okay, maybe you're betting with the flush. So we had it in his range. I don't think we played the hand, and good enough. So chalk it up. Chalk it up to poor play, both these hands. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. Look tomorrow for a couple more hands.